Biden shows up, cameras in tow, and even then, he can't keep it together long enough not to apparently look at his watch. I don't know what else to take from that. Imagine if it were Donald Trump. All we would hear about is how little Donald Trump obviously cares about the troops and how much of a photo op all of this is and all the rest. Joe Biden does it, and we're supposed to believe that he's Captain Empathy. The debacle in Afghanistan is coming to its semi-terminus tomorrow. It is scheduled to do so when all American troops are withdrawn from Afghanistan, leaving behind hundreds, if not thousands, of American citizens and American green card holders, and certainly tens or hundreds of thousands of people who worked with the United States government during the last 20 years. Joe Biden, for his part, continues to not answer questions. It's an amazing thing. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden will not answer simple questions about what's going on in Afghanistan, where we're currently going to be leaving behind, again, hundreds, if not thousands of American citizens, and certainly thousands of American green card holders, it's pretty astonishing. So yesterday, while he was making his announcements about Hurricane Ida, a reporter asked about Afghanistan, and he simply refused to answer the question and then sort of turned his back on them.
I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan.
No, I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now.
Can you see if there's still an acute risk?
That's unbelievable. I'm sorry, that's unbelievable. He's the president of the United States. He has no place to go. He simply just turns his back on the reporter. That's amazing. And then he actually is directed the wrong direction. He starts to walk off in the wrong direction and then has to walk back in the other direction. This president is not competent. He is not with it. He is certainly not capable of running the country at this point in time. That is perfectly obvious. And then in a bit of a debacle yesterday that is being undercovered by the media, because if it were Donald Trump, it would be, the entire, it's amazing. If this were Donald Trump, this would be the entire news cycle endlessly. Because you remember that there was an entire news cycle during the last election cycle over whether Donald Trump had visited a World War I cemetery in Europe and at the time had made disparaging remarks about America's fallen soldiers. Remember, there's an entire Politico news cycle, and The Atlantic had covered it, and it was Jeffrey Goldberg over at The Atlantic covering it, and it was all unnamed sources. Imagine if Donald Trump had gone to Dover Air Force Base to do the dignified transfer of bodies of the American service people who had been killed in Afghanistan. And imagine if he'd looked at his watch. Really, this is kind of an amazing story. So this is not speculative. Here's the video. You can decide for yourself what Joe Biden is doing here. He doesn't look like he's hitching his sleeve to me. He looks like he's deliberately looking down at his watch and then realizing he shouldn't be looking at his watch while waiting for the bodies of American service members who are dead because of his Afghanistan policy. That's an amazing thing. And the media have thus far really not covered it. Imagine if it were Donald Trump, right? The callousness is the point. The cruelty is the point. But Joe Biden, who has structured an Afghanistan policy so absolutely incoherent that certainly tens of thousands of people are going to be slaughtered by the Taliban. Certainly Americans are going to get left behind. And now he's at a place specifically, first of all, there's a general rule that if you go to Dover Air Force Base to do the dignified transfer of troops, to be present for that, you don't let the cameras in. Right? George W. Bush famously did that. George W. Bush famously went in the middle of the night to Dover Air Force Base. Anna Perina talks about this. She was his press secretary. She talks about the fact that George W. Bush would go to Dover Air Force Base quietly and without the cameras there to do the dignified transfer. Biden shows up, cameras in tow, and even then, he can't keep it together long enough not to apparently look at his watch. I don't know what else to take from that. Like, I haven't even heard an excuse from the White House on what he was doing there. Because in the video, it's pretty I've looked at my watch from time to time when I'm bored with something, and it looks exactly like that. So that's an amazing thing. And again, if it were Donald Trump, all we would hear about is how little Donald Trump obviously cares about the troops and how much of a photo op all of this is and all the rest. Joe Biden does it, and we're supposed to believe that he's Captain Empathy. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all our future content.